She was 8 months pregnant. 8 months! And when he woke up that Saturday morning, I kid you not, she was just gone. No note, no text, no goodbye. Just a cold bed, a silent house, and a question that nearly broke him in half. What did I do? But here's the thing, y'all. He already knew. Deep down, underneath all the excuses he'd been feeding himself for months, he already knew exactly what he had done. And 6 days later, when her letter arrived in a plain white envelope with his name in her handwriting, what she wrote inside didn't just answer his question. It destroyed everything he thought he was. This is that story. And he's not telling it to make you feel sorry for him. He's telling it because maybe, just maybe, you need to hear it too. But before we get into it, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is where real stories live. Betrayal, survival, and the truth that always finds its way out. You do not want to miss where this one goes. All right, let's go back to the beginning. His name is Daniel, and when he first sat down to tell me this story, kind of quietly, like someone confessing in a church, I honestly didn't expect to be in tears before he got to the middle of it. Daniel met his wife Maya in 2015 at a corporate fundraiser in Charlotte, North Carolina. He says she was standing near the dessert table, eating a brownie with zero apology, wearing a red dress and laughing. Full on, head thrown back, completely unembarrassed laughing at something her friend had said. He says he walked straight over and introduced himself purely because her laugh was the best sound in the room. And folks, that checks out. Because Maya was one of those people. You know the type. The ones who make you feel like you're the most important person in the room just by giving you their full attention. She worked as a social worker, she volunteered on weekends, she remembered every birthday, sent handwritten thank you cards, and showed up to things people thought nobody would notice. She was real. In a world full of people performing, Maya was just genuinely, completely real. They dated for a year and a half, moved in together, got engaged in 2017, and in the spring of 2018, they got married in a small ceremony in the Smoky Mountains. Just family, close friends, wildflowers everywhere, and a rented projector that kept sliding off the table during their slideshow, as does to a couple. Because it is hard in a way that people who haven't been through it genuinely don't understand. Month after month, negative test after negative test. Maya holding it together in public and then falling apart in the car on the way home from specialist appointments. Daniel squeezing her hand across a cold doctor's office table while someone talked about options and timelines and statistical probability. But they kept going, together, because that's what they did. And then, January 2022. Maya burst through the front door at 7:30 in the morning, while Daniel was still in his bathrobe making coffee. She was holding one of those little plastic tests, and she was full-on ugly crying. The kind where you honestly can't tell if someone is happy or devastated. She held it up. Positive.
Daniel picked her up off the ground right there in the kitchen and spun her around. And they just stayed like that, holding each other, neither of them speaking, for a long time. He says that was the single most beautiful moment of his entire life. And I believe him. But here's what makes this story what it is. In that exact same moment, while Maya was crying tears of joy and Daniel was telling himself he was the luckiest man on earth, he was already lying to her. He just hadn't admitted it to himself yet. Now, I need you to stay with me, because this next part is where most people look away. This is the part people clean up, make prettier than it actually was. We are not doing that today. We're going all the way in, because the only way this story makes sense is if we see every corner of it. Keep watching. Her name was Priya. She worked at Daniel's firm, a financial analyst. Driven, ambitious, smart as a whip. Daniel says it started as what he told himself was just a friendship. Long drives to client meetings, shared venting about a difficult boss, late nights going over spreadsheets. And then, somewhere around October of 2021, about 3 months before Maya's positive test, it became something else entirely.
Daniel is very clear on this point, y'all. He is not telling this story to explain it away. There is no explaining it away. He made choices, deliberate, repeated, conscious choices, every single day. But he also says, and this is the part I think a lot of people relate to, even if they'd never say it out loud, he got incredibly good at compartmentalizing, at running 2 completely separate versions of himself in parallel. The devoted husband who spent his Sundays painting the nursery, and the man texting someone else from the parking lot before he came inside. Maya noticed things. Of course she did. She was a social worker, y'all, literally trained to read people. She didn't miss a single sign. She noticed he smelled different sometimes when he came home late. She noticed he'd flinch when his phone buzzed if she was sitting nearby. She noticed the gym hours getting strange. She'd ask, gently, casually, the way someone asks when they already half know but aren't ready to fully know. And he'd have an answer. Smooth, logical, just plausible enough. And here's where the story becomes something else entirely. Maya didn't push, didn't confront, didn't demand his phone, because she was pregnant. And she was scared. Not of Daniel, but of what confirming her fears would mean. For her baby. For the family she'd spent 7 years building with this man. She gave him the benefit of the doubt. She held her breath, and she waited for him to come back to her. She was still waiting when she found the receipt. It was a Thursday afternoon in February 2022, about 4 weeks after her positive pregnancy test. She was doing laundry. Daniel's jacket from the night before. Front pocket. A hotel receipt. A hotel neither of them had ever stayed at, about 40 minutes from their home. She stood in the laundry room for a long time, just holding it. And then she folded it carefully, put it in her bedside drawer, and didn't say a word. Because Maya was not a woman who was going to blow up her life out of raw emotion. Over the next few weeks, she confirmed everything quietly. She cross-referenced his late client calls with his actual calendar. She noticed the same name appearing in financial notifications he'd left up on his laptop. She paid attention the way only someone who desperately doesn't want to believe what they're seeing actually
And when
pays
she was
attention.
sure, when she had no more room to give him the benefit of the doubt, she stopped reacting, stopped asking questions, stopped engaging with the late nights and the distant looks. She just watched and made a plan and kept painting the nursery. Because she wasn't going to leave in anger. She wasn't going to confront him out of pain. She was going to leave on her terms. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking. Why didn't she just leave right then? The second she found that receipt? And honestly, that is the question of this story. And Daniel has turned it over in his head every single day since.
Because what Maya did next, and why she did it that way, is way more complicated than just leaving. Stay with me. We're getting there. It was a Saturday in late April. Maya was 8 months pregnant. Daniel woke up at 8 in the morning and reached across the bed out of pure habit. That unconscious reaching you do when you've slept next to someone for years. The sheets were cold. He told himself she'd gone for a slow drive. She'd been having pregnancy insomnia for weeks. No big deal. He padded downstairs. No Maya. Made coffee, checked his phone. No texts. He called her cell. Straight to voicemail. He sent a message. "Hey babe, where are you? You okay?" Nothing. By noon, the no big deal feeling had curdled into something else entirely. He called Sandra, Maya's mom, a woman he'd always had a decent enough relationship with. Not super close, but warm. She'd always been warm to him. Sandra picked up on the second ring, and the way she said, "Hello, Daniel," like the word had weight to it, like she was carrying something in her mouth. He says his stomach dropped before she finished speaking. He said, "Sandra, is Maya there?" There was a pause. And Sandra said, "She's safe, Daniel. She doesn't want to talk to you right now." Daniel says he sat down right there on the kitchen floor. Not on a chair, on the floor. He said, "Sandra, she's 8 months pregnant. I need to..." Sandra said, "She is safe. That is all I can tell you right now." And she hung up. He called back 4 times. She didn't pick up. And look, Daniel wants to be clear about something. He did not go to Sandra's house. He didn't track Maya's phone. He didn't show up anywhere demanding anything. Every instinct in him was screaming to fix it, to find her, to do something. But deep down, underneath all the noise, he already knew. Not the specifics, but the shape of it. He knew. So instead, he went through the house. Not looking for dirt on Maya, just trying to understand what she'd taken. Her toothbrush, gone. Her favorite blanket, the soft navy one she'd had since college, gone. The wooden jewelry box from her grandmother, gone. Their wedding photo album, gone. Her prenatal vitamins, gone. But the nursery? Not a single thing touched. The crib still assembled. The onesies still stacked. The little sleeping fox still on the wall above the crib, exactly where Maya had painted it. He sat on the floor of that nursery for a long time. And he understood what the untouched nursery meant. Maya hadn't left their family. She had left him. And she wanted him to know the difference. He didn't eat properly for 4 days, slept maybe 2 hours a night, called every mutual friend they had, and every single person said some version of, "She's okay," and then went quiet. Like they'd all received the same message. Don't tell Daniel anything. Just confirm she's alive. The silence was the worst part. On day 6, a Thursday, he heard the mail slot. He walked to the door. Plain white envelope. His name, in Maya's careful, slightly slanted handwriting. He sat down at the kitchen table before he opened it. He doesn't know why he did that. He just knew instinctively that he needed to be sitting down. He opened it. I'm going to tell you what was in that letter. Not every single word. Some of it belongs to Maya, and that's how it's going to stay. But I'm going to tell you the core of what she said, because it changed Daniel. And honestly, because it might change how you see some things too. Don't go anywhere. The letter started with 3 words. I know everything. No greeting, no preamble, just those 3 words, and then a blank line, like she was giving him a moment to breathe before she kept going. She wrote, "I've known since February. Not a hunch, Daniel. I know. I found the hotel receipt in your jacket when I was doing laundry. I cross-referenced your location stories with your actual calendar for 2 months. I confirmed it. I'm not writing this looking for an explanation. I've already run every version of it in my head, and not one of them changes what you did." Daniel had to stop reading at that point, had to set the letter down, had to walk to the window. He doesn't know why. He thinks he needed to see that the world outside was still just the world. A neighbor walking her dog, a kid on a bike. Normal things still happening while his marriage was ending on a piece of paper in his kitchen. He went back, kept reading. She wrote, "I stayed. After I found that receipt, I stayed. I know you're asking yourself why. Here's why. Because I was 8 weeks pregnant and terrified, and I told myself you'd choose us. That if I just held on a little longer, you'd look at me. Look at this baby we had tried so hard for, and you'd choose us. I gave you 3 more months to make that choice, Daniel. 3 months. 3 months she had known. Through every Sunday painting the nursery together. Through every I love you said at the door before work. Through every conversation about baby names and strollers and birth plans. She knew. And she waited. Because she loved him that much. She wrote, "The night you walked out of the nursery to take your client call, I watched you. I watched your face when you came back inside. And I realized in that moment that I had been holding my breath for 3 months, waiting for you to come back to me. And you weren't coming back. You kept choosing her. So I decided it was time to choose myself." And then she wrote about the baby. "I want you to know our daughter is healthy. Strong heartbeat, perfect position. She is going to be fine. And she deserves a father who is honest about who he is, even when it's painful. So before you and I have any conversation about what comes next, I need you to do one thing. Ask yourself, not me, not anyone else. Ask yourself what kind of man you actually want to be. Because the man who chose deception every single day of my pregnancy is not a man I can build a family with. But he might be a man who could become something different. That's the only question that matters to me right now." Our daughter. Daniel found out he was having a daughter in that letter. In those circumstances. He had missed the anatomy scan, told Maya he had a client conflict. She'd gone alone. She'd found out at that appointment and kept it to herself for weeks. He found out his child's sex in a letter from the wife who'd had to flee his lies. He sat at that table for close to 2 hours. Couldn't move. Couldn't even cry. Just sat there. The letter ended with, "When you are ready for honesty, not a defense, not a plan, not a negotiation, contact my mother. She'll know what to do. No, I love you. No, I hate you. No emotional explosion. Just cold, clear, absolute honesty. On her terms, in her timeline." Daniel ended things with Priya the next morning. Not as a strategy. Not to win Maya back. He says he knew it was too late for that kind of calculation. He ended it because the letter had made it impossible to pretend anymore. The compartments he'd been running for over a year had collapsed, and without them, he couldn't unsee what he'd been doing. That same week, he found a therapist. Not because anyone told him to, not as a tactic, because for the first time, he genuinely needed to understand how he had become the man in that story, the man who walked out of the nursery. Those early sessions were brutal, he says. Not because the therapist was harsh, she wasn't, but because saying the truth out loud, without softening it or explaining it away, to another human being, that is one of the genuinely hardest things a person can do. It took 4 weeks for Sandra to pass along his message that he wanted to talk. 3 more weeks before Maya agreed to a phone call. When they finally spoke, the first real conversation in nearly 2 months, Daniel says he didn't say a single word about saving the marriage, didn't make promises, didn't bring a plan. He just listened. And when Maya asked him questions, the hard, direct questions that Maya asked, he answered them honestly. All the way honestly. Even the answers that made him look terrible. Olivia was born 6 weeks after Maya left. Daniel wasn't in the delivery room. He got a photo through Sandra. A tiny, scrunched-up face, a full head of dark hair, absolutely indignant about being in the world. She looked exactly like Maya. He held his phone for a long time after that photo came through. He says the grief he felt in that moment, not just the grief of losing Maya, though that was real and it was there, but the specific, particular grief of knowing that his daughter came into the world without him in the room because of choices he had made, that was the moment it became completely, devastatingly real. Over the following year, slowly, painfully, with more therapy than he could count and more uncomfortable, honest conversations than he knew he was capable of having, Daniel and Maya built something new. Not what they had before. Something smaller, more fragile, more honest.
They co-parent Olivia. They are not together. Daniel doesn't know if that will ever change. He says he's not in a position to ask for that, and he knows it. His job right now is just to be the kind of father and the kind of man that makes Olivia proud someday, and to earn one honest interaction at a time the right to exist in Maya's life. He told me, "The man who walked out of that nursery cost me everything I had. But the letter Maya wrote gave me the only thing I actually needed, the truth about who I was, and the chance to decide if that's who I was going to stay." So why does this story matter? Not because Daniel deserves your sympathy. He'd be the first person to tell you he doesn't. And not because Maya is some kind of perfect saint. She's a human being who was deeply, genuinely hurt, who made the incredibly courageous decision to protect herself and her daughter, rather than stay and keep waiting to be chosen. This story matters because of what Maya already knew. You cannot love someone into being who you need them to be. You can only be honest about who they are.
She didn't leave in a rage. She didn't destroy him publicly. She didn't torch everything out of revenge. Even though, let's be real, she would have been more than justified. She left quietly, with a plan, with every piece of her dignity intact. And she wrote him a letter that, instead of burning everything to the ground, gave him one last chance to look at himself honestly. That is not weakness, y'all. That is the kind of strength most people will spend their whole lives being too scared to have. And if you're watching this right now, if something in this story landed somewhere in your chest, if you know what it feels like to be Maya, to be holding your breath, waiting for someone to finally choose you, I want you to hear this. You are allowed to choose yourself first. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, please hit that like button right now. I'm not kidding when I say it genuinely helps more people find stories like this one.
And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, a friend, a sister, someone who's been waiting on someone who keeps choosing wrong, share this video with them. Right now. You might not realize how much it means.
Subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet and hit that bell icon so you don't miss a single story. We're here every week. Real betrayal, real survival, real truth. No fairy tales, no sugarcoating. Drop a comment below. I want to hear from you. Do you think Maya should ever give Daniel another chance? Or was that letter the final goodbye? I read every single comment. Every one. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, the truth always finds its way out. Always.